Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another edition of the Sick Podcast, Talking Titans. We have a phenomenal show for you guys tonight and an even more phenomenal guest. So I don't want to waste any time with this intro. Sammy, start me up.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Talking Titans.
Ladies and gentlemen, 94 yards. Touchdown, Titans! He is the baddest man in the NFL, and he just took her to the house.
The sickest Tennessee Titans podcast.
Sick!
It's gonna be sick.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another edition of the Sick Podcast, Talking Titans. I'm joined by my counterpart, Vincent. Jared's taking the night off. He will be back with us shortly. We got a great show lined up for you guys tonight. Obviously, there's a lot on the horizon for the Titans as far as news is concerned in our next upcoming game against the Texans. So we figured we'd bring in a top-notch guest to talk about what's to come. I don't want to waste any time bringing him in. Just wrapped up in the studio, it appears, Mr. Turron Davenport. TD, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
Hey, I'm really well, man. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Absolutely. We appreciate you even more. I want to get right into some of the topics that we have tonight because, man, there's just a lot going on with this football team right now, a lot more than we probably expected a couple weeks ago. So I got a lot of love and respect for your TD. So I'm gonna try to word this question as delicately and as conservatively as I can without getting you in any hot water whatsoever because I got too much love for you. I got too much love for you.
No, it's all good.
But with that being said, have you seen any evidence that might potentially lead on for a fan to believe that maybe our quarterback isn't the biggest fan of our head coach?
Nah, I haven't seen any, honestly. Okay. I know that's something that I've seen your tweets and stuff, but yeah, I haven't seen any, to be honest with you. I think they're closer than a lot of people realize. And one of the things, and it's funny, like I kind of set it up, right? Because I remember what he always said about Ryan Tannehill, the toughness, and that he loved the toughness. So I asked him a couple weeks ago about Levis standing in there, getting body rocked and blasted over and over again and coming back. And I asked him, what does that say about him, especially his toughness? And I remember he went on, like the transcript was like 2 paragraphs on that answer. And that right there, the way he talked about the toughness, I said, yeah, that's a not an issue. It's not something where they have any. And then even, you don't call somebody that you don't like, you don't call them by a nickname unless it's like, like you call a guy that you don't like dog nuts or something like that. Like, yeah, okay, that's different. But if it's somebody that you like, he referred to Vrabel as Vrabes. Like that's one of those names that, like, a nickname like that is one that is usually out of like, hey, we're cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I got you.
And then, like, you made a good point about the post game, the press conference. But the thing is, you got to remember that's just a clip. Like they're back there for a minute. They're back there for a while. I'm sure at one point, and then also I will add, Levis had to come in later. He missed a lot of that because he was out there. Because, when you're the first quarterback to throw for 300-plus yards as a rookie, you're going to get some love post-game. So they had him, doing an interview, I think, with Laura Omkin.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Sal was just a little upset that he didn't mention Will in that clip by name. He mentioned our new punter by name we took in off the street. So I guess from an outsider's perspective, it does look like he might have slighted Levis. But I'm glad that you said that there is no really beef in that relationship. My question for you, Turron, is also related to the locker room. So Monty Rice got released and tweeted something along the lines of, thank God. Kevin Byard gets traded to the Eagles, and you hear something that A.J. Brown said to him, we do things differently here. Is there any validity to maybe a little bit of dissension in the Titans locker room when it comes to Vrabel and certain players, or is that just certain players being sensitive? Because I brought up that I think this new age athlete has a little bit more of a sense of entitlement. They're a little more sensitive because of social media and things like that. So is it just players being a little salty that maybe they got released or traded, or is there any validity to the fact that maybe things in the Titans locker room have been a little rocky at times this year?
Yeah. Jaleel Johnson also had comments, and he came back, right? But I will say, how can I put this? I can't really say everything, but, that win helped a lot. I'll put it that way.
Fair enough. Because like Sal, I don't want to get you in any hot water either. Two Italians from South Jersey. We don't want to mess with your flow down in Nashville. But, when you hear these things all the time, it makes you believe maybe there is some truth to it. But the fact that you said that win did help a lot, I believe it did as well. Winning cures a lot of things. Speaking of winning, should we win this week and all of a sudden we are 6-8, there's a struggle in the AFC for that last wild card spot. Is that something you could see us potentially, getting hot and getting on a little run and maybe, making a run at it? It wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world.
It would be wild, but that would be Titan stuff, right? That would be it. I don't, you look at the schedule, 2 games against Houston, you got Seattle and you got Jacksonville. You compare
3 of the 4 at home.
Yeah, I get it, but you compare that to like Denver has to lose 2 games. I'm not sure if they have the tiebreaker, against them. The Colts could lose 2 games and still be okay because they swept the Titans. So, yeah, I don't think it's likely, but I mean, there's like in Dumb and Dumber, right?
I think they actually have potentially a better chance of somehow winning the AFC South than they do having getting the last wild card, because if Jacksonville can continue to lose and Trevor Lawrence is missing a few birds in his brain right now, I don't know how that could all. But
you look at Jacksonville's schedule, so they got the Ravens on Sunday night. The Ravens, in my opinion, are the best team in the AFC.
Yeah, I agree.
Then they got the Bucks, Panthers, and Titans. So, it's going to be pretty interesting seeing how it all works out. The league did a great job of making sure that they have that divisional game lined up at the season finale. So, I like that.
Yeah, so my question to you, TD, is, and I know it's a little early, but realistically speaking, I think we all know that the playoffs are unlikely. So it's not too crazy to think about beyond this season already. Before we even get into potential candidates for additions to the draft at wide receiver or potential free agent wide receiver additions, one thing I'm very concerned about and one thing I don't want to have to worry about is possibly taking advantage of the out that Tennessee has in the DeAndre Hopkins contract, because I think he is going to be so important to the development of Will Levis going into year 2. And I don't know why I have this weird suspicion in the back of my mind that they might try to move on from him next year because of the money aspect of it. And because, hey, if this kid has the talent that they think that he has, that he might be able to do what he's doing with less. Is there anything you can ease my mind a little bit, TD, as to my fear that DeAndre Hopkins might not be a Titan next year?
Yeah, I'll say this much, right? They had an opportunity, they wouldn't field any offers. And that's from the conversation I had with multiple people for that Mike Vrabel and Rand Carthon story I did. They weren't fielding offers. So that right there lets you know. But then also you look, low-key, DeAndre Hopkins is on pace for the 9th best receiving season in Oilers and Titans franchise history, right? Like,
very quietly.
Now, granted, okay, you do have an extra game. He's averaging 69 yards per game. That goes out to 1,174 yards. That's the 9th best. He set the pass Drew Hill. So, you got that. But then on top of that, you look at – and I have a story coming out actually Saturday about that relationship. And in talking to Will Levis, he said that DeAndre Hopkins is somebody that is a great leader, a great teammate, role model, and it inspires him to be better. It would be foolish to take that away, right? And you look at Hopkins, the performance. He has 3 100-yard games this year. The Titans receiving core had what, 2 last year.
Mm.
So you found that receiver that you need. He broke that curse also, right? The Andre Johnson, Randy Moss, and Julio Jones. He broke that curse. I mean, we could talk the rest of the show for reasons why he should be there. I know you want to talk about other stuff, so I'll just leave it at that.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and you love to see the fact that DeAndre Hopkins is posting pictures of Danny Glover and Mel Gibson.
Yeah. That was hilarious. Yeah,
from Lethal Weapon, posted the picture of Levis as well, looking like a G. I agree. I think he's here to stay as well, and he's getting targets out the wazoo. So why would he want to leave? He's the focal point of this passing game. But speaking of aging stars, there's another one we have, number 22. He's looked fast at times. He's looked slow at times. He's looked like he's his old self. He's looked like he's a little aged at times. This is the last year of his deal. Do you have any, are you leaning one way or another whether you think the Titans will bring him back next year? We know he loves being here. Will he try the open market? Do you think he'll take a little less money? I mean, he's quietly still having a great year. He just hit 10 touchdowns with 4 games left. He's at almost 900 yards. So, I mean, we still think, he has something left, but we also see what Tajay Spears can do when he can be the focal point. What do you see us doing with Henry at the end of the year? Your best guess?
Yeah, it would be just that, a guess. That's one thing I haven't gotten much. I know there were people calling about him. They were once one of the reports where I forget. I think it was Jeremy Fowler had the report. But once that happened, they got calls and stuff like that. But they were never at a place where they wanted to trade him. So that's another situation where it's like, okay, if you didn't want to trade him when you could get compensation, why would you let him walk?
I agree.
But again, I don't know. I just think it would be good to have him back for his sake too, because he's thinking like Emmitt Smith with the Cardinals and Thurman
so
Thomas.
Weird.
It was like
Eddie George with the Cowboys just making me sick.
Edgerrin James in Arizona, right? Chris Johnson with the Jets, or Arizona rather. You don't want to see that. So I think that would be good for him to come back. But also you look at the way this is set up, where I think at times with how this team is built, he'll have those vintage games where it's like, oh wow, Derrick Henry, 25 carries, 120 yards, 3 touchdowns, right? Because he still is a big part of that red zone offense. In fact, he talked about that today. Just being efficient, and getting the ball. I mean, you look, he had who scored the touchdown to put them ahead against Miami?
Him.
It was
2 touchdowns last year.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think he looked very good Monday, I'll be honest. I don't think the protection was great. But
he didn't look awesome. No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
But with all that being said, I think something, we're all very high on cloud 9 right now based off of what Will Levis was able to do in that last 3 minutes and take us down the field and win that game. With all that being put aside, TD, I think you would agree there still is a lot of tension and there's a lot of uncertainties about this franchise at the moment. And I think one of the biggest ones, I think it's safe to say at this point, Mike Vrabel probably isn't going anywhere. And after you told me that there's probably a good relationship between him and Levis, I'm much, it's a lot more easier for me to sleep at night knowing that. But something that is still keeping me up at night is this offensive coordinator situation, because I do not think Tim Kelly is bringing the best out of Will Levis. And I know they seem to have a great relationship because Levis, every time he sees Tim on the sideline, it's they won the Super Bowl. And I love to see that. That's something that's important. It's very important. But still, I don't know how sold I am on him long term. What's the temperature in the room right now on the coordinator positions? And do you see that possibly getting shaken up moving into this offseason?
I don't see it getting shaken up as far as offensively. I don't know. I mean, it's still early, right? So it's hard for me to say he's not putting – because they're still learning each other. In fact, I asked a while ago about how they go. So, in the beginning of the week, right, you sit down with the quarterback and you're like, okay, these are the things that I'm thinking we should do. I want this play up. I want that play up. We're going to pull this play. What do you think? And he gives his feedback. They're still in a situation, at least 2 weeks ago, they were in a situation where Ryan Tannehill was a heavy part of that, right? So they're not in that place where it's like, okay, Will, it's me and you. We're going to sit in this room. We're going to figure out what you like, what you don't like. This is how they play. Let's put it together. That relationship is still new. So it's hard for me to say. And I will admit, like, I'm a bit more patient than a lot of other people, right? So at least as far as this is concerned.
Yeah.
So I give it more time to cook. And I think, like, make no mistake about it, I had an issue, and I asked Tim Kelly as well as Mike Vrabel after that blocked field goal, why you run the ball 3 times? And then the next drive, you go for the gusto, and their answer, well, Kelly's answer was interesting because he said that they were looking at it from a time perspective, and they got to 6 yards on the first down, and he had the holding. They got behind the sticks, and they kind of, honestly, just judging from what he said, they basically gave up on the drive. They wanted to make sure they didn't give that Dolphins offense the ball back, so they said, we're going to play the field, right, and we're going to punt it and not have them have a lot of time to drive to score. Now, the defense was like, hey, man, we got this, right? And they forced the punt, and then they got the ball back, and then that's when you saw Will Levis, say, hey, listen, man, I got one life to live.
I swear to God, I saw before that throw, they showed DeAndre Hopkins, and he looked directly at Will Levis, and he went like this. Like, I saw it, and sure enough, boom, he went down the field. I rewatched the game. He should have told Will Levis, bro, shuck it up there, man. And they and you were probably there, TD, when they were talking to Levis about it, and he said, Hop tells me a lot of times just throw it up there. And
that was my question.
Oh, that was your question, of course. Yeah, and you say, sometimes it's not smart, sometimes it is, and that time he trusted him, and it worked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. What's up with Treylon Burks though, TD? I mean,
what's up with Trey today? Yeah.
Do they even care about him long term? Because it looks like they're just using him as a decoy at this point, or is he still hurt?
The thing that's interesting is last Thursday before this game, I asked Tim Kelly about the importance of getting a receiver like Burks involved early. Like, you got to get guys in the flow of the game. Like, you always preach that. Well, get him in the flow of the game. And sure enough, the first play or the second play, they manufactured a touch for him. So I'm like, this might be a big Treylon Burks day, but then the way things work, it just came away from it. But the thing that for me that I just can't uncover, because I don't know the progressions in the plays, I can't uncover, okay, is he the first read on the play? And I could ask him, but I know what he's not going to tell me whether or not Burks is the first read. So you have that. And then also you have because I asked Mike Vrabel about it, and, he talked about the way, because Derrick Mason is set that, they got Burks running clear out routes. Chris Sanders believes it too. I talked to both of those guys about it. And when Vrabel spoke about that, he talked about how some of the routes are designed to where, it's a read. Okay, if the safety comes here, you go over top. If safety goes here, you go underneath. And it just so happens to be that the coverage is going to Burks more than to other players. Now, I don't know that I believe as a defensive player I would put more coverage on Burks than DeAndre Hopkins. But that's just the explanation that Vrabel gave. Now, I talked to Treylon, and he was just like, the ball's going to go to the open guy. He said that he refuses because sometimes, Randy Moss, right? If he didn't get involved early, you're probably going to see him check out of the game for a bit. You know what I mean? And Treylon said that he takes pride in being the guy that makes plays without the ball. That's a small win for him. I know he wants the football. You know what I mean? I asked him if he and Will Levis are talking any more about that. Like, give me the football, give me targets too. And he said that, they talk in meetings and stuff like that. But it's just, it reminds me of a story. Remember Dorial Green Beckham?
Sure.
Right.
17.
Sure. I thought he was going to be the next big thing for a minute.
In 2016, I was in Philly covering the Eagles, and I remember he got traded to the Eagles, and it was the Giants game. He played in the second Giants game, and he was the backside. They had 3-by-1. He was the backside receiver, and over and over and over again, they had a corner just isolated with him. they didn't throw him the ball. He was getting open on the slant. They didn't throw him the ball. And I remember talking to him in the locker room. I'm like, yo, man, like, you need to say something. Like, do you not realize, like, you're a backside one-on-one. Look how big you are. Look at that corner. And they're not throwing you the football. You need to say something, right? So he did the next week. And Carson Wentz went crazy on him. And he didn't get any targets the whole game. So I say all that to say, you got to be careful how you talk to the quarterback. You know what I mean? So I don't know if Treylon is taking the right route, as far as like being more, subdued about it. But yeah, you need your touches, man. He needs targets.
I remember that trade vividly because we got Dennis Kelly for him, and I said, "What the hell was this? Who is this?" Who ended up being a pretty premier, swing tackle for us for years. And
DeMarco Murray.
Yeah,
the DeMarco Murray. There's been a lot of trades with Philly and the Titans.
Yeah.
Some good, some not good.
Well, Rand did tell me when I did it, and I think it was in the story. Howie Roseman is one of the guys that Rand looks to, like, for advice and stuff like that.
Well, if you're going to get advice from somebody, it should be someone like Howie, who seems like he swindles everybody, man.
Yeah.
If I'm a GM and he calls, I'm just not picking up.
I'm blocking that number.
Yeah. Rand should ask Howie how to steal somebody's best franchise wide receiver on his rookie contract. That's what he should ask Howie how to do.
One more question that I have for you, TD, is, we talked about, winning, curing a lot of things, and Sal had talked about Vrabel. And I don't want to contradict myself because I seemed optimistic in saying that maybe we can win 3 of our last 4, win out, make the playoffs. To backtrack on that, let's just say for whatever reason we struggle and we only win 1 game and we go 7-10, and it seems like there's some more frustration mounting. Not to say, do you think Vrabel would go, but do you think there is at all a possibility, especially now with all these rumors with Belichick being done in New England, and Vrabel had his jersey retired there, and he was excited, and the fan base seemed excited. Let's just say, to play devil's advocate, we finish, 7-10. Vrabel looks disinterested, like he's kind of looked at times this year. Do you think there's a chance at all, should that happen, that he is no longer our head coach next year?
I don't think it's likely. And honestly, it would be career sabotage, right? Because what do the Patriots have? At least here,
a top pick.
Okay, a top pick is nice to have, but here you got almost $100 million to spend, right?
Yep.
You have a quarterback. I don't think there's a doubt. Will Levis is a quarterback.
Yep.
Right, and you're going to have maybe not a top pick, but you'll have probably a top 15 pick.
Mm-hmm.
It would be suicide to go there, and then also he goes there. There's expectations here. Don't get it twisted, right? But if he goes there, it wouldn't be. You're following Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Do you really want to do that?
I wouldn't wish that job on anybody. That's got to be the biggest shoes in sports history to fill.
I just had to ask you too, because it seems like this fan base is somewhat divided when it comes to Vrabel and what we think his future might be here. Mm-hmm. Again, not to poke and pry and try to get you in trouble, but we wanted to just see from a guy who's right there, what the vibe seems to be on Vrabel. And it seems like the last few weeks, the tide has turned in a positive direction for him, at least, because, I would like to see what he could do next year, with free agency, with the draft. He's done great things here, and the last 2 years have kind of been lackluster, but, he's not perfect. And listen, if we did let him go, he would be unemployed for 5 minutes,
Right.
So
you say that. We're not. We'll dive into that once we let TD go.
Trust me, he will get a job.
No, I know. I know he would.
I've said at times, if Ryan Day moved on from Ohio State and they threw $100 million at Vrabel, you don't know.
I think he would be a top 5 college coach on the planet. I genuinely do.
100%.
Because when it comes to an 18-year-old, there's nobody more intimidating than Mike Vrabel. But the last question I have for you, TD, before I let you go, quick rapid fire question. Say we get the 15th pick in the next year's draft. Just throwing out a random number. Are we going best wide receiver, or are we going best tackle with that first round pick?
It's tough. Like, if it's the number 2 receiver versus the number 4 or 5 tackle, I would probably say receiver. But
let's say there's number 3 let's say, just for sake of discussion, the same is left. Number 4 wide receiver, number 4 tackle, and we're picking for 15th. For somehow that happens. So let's put it in a vacuum. If you're Rand Carthon.
My number 4 tackle is a right tackle. My number 4 receiver is Keon Coleman. So it would be Mims. It would be Mims against Coleman. I think in that case they will go Coleman because Coleman is buy one get one free because you get a returner in that also. But they need to sign Devin Duvernay or Darnell Mooney, one of those two, to solve that returner side of things. That's a different conversation, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, too. It also probably depends a lot on where we spend our money in free agency. We know in the offensive line market this year, it's not, as strong and as deep. And then when it comes to receivers, there's going to be a lot of them that are going to be out there. So,
yeah,
absolutely. We'll see, though. I mean, I'm a big believer, and you got to protect this kid, man. Keep him upright, because if you give him time to throw, man, I think we finally found it. Knock on wood.
Yeah, we did. We definitely did. But listen, TD, can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your night after I know you just wrapped up in the studio. So we appreciate you having you on. We can't wait to have you on again. And hope you have a wonderful holiday with you and your family. So
yes, man.
As always, man.
Absolutely. Thank you, TD. We appreciate you, man. Have a great night.
TD, Turron Davenport, thanks so much for joining us. Friend of the show. One of the best in the business.
I think it was like his 3rd time on, maybe something like that.
Yeah, no, I think it is, and that means the world to us that he has the respect in us to join our show. And needless to say, we have even more respect for him. So thank you, Turron, for joining us. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll be the first one to say it. All right, and a big knock on me, even though it is completely untrue, like most of the stuff that's said, is that I never admit when I'm wrong, and I will trust Turron Davenport when he says that he thinks the relationship with Vrabel and Levis is relatively strong, and he's as good as it gets at his job. So I'm going to lay off that. Do I think he's still the right coach for the job as far as decision making is concerned, as far as coordinator and coaching selection is concerned? No. But what's very important to me moving forward is the relationship that Will Levis has with his head coach. And if that is strong, then I will back off of that. I genuinely will. And that was relieving to hear that from him, because I just genuinely didn't think they liked each other. And there was plenty of people that understood why I said that. All right. For all the people that called me an ass clown for even bringing it up, there's plenty of video footage of Will Levis, treating every other coordinator and coach in the book like he's his lifelong friend, and treating Mike Vrabel like he's a guy he met yesterday. So, that's where most of it stemmed from. But if Turron says they're cool, then I'm going to say they're cool, and I'm going to leave it at that,
Yeah, I mean, listen, he's right there. He's one of their main insiders, if not their, number one insider, the number one reporter. So, it was refreshing to hear as well. And, listen, hopefully it turns into some wins down the stretch, because you never know what happened. Like, look at Jacksonville last year. We had a stranglehold on that division. They were 4-7.
Yeah.
We shit the bed. They got hot. Next thing you know, that week 17 or week 18 matchup is for the division. So you never know what can happen, especially in this league. And especially the team that's starting to look like they believe in themselves. We might be a little – undermanned, but now it seems like we might get a little healthier down the stretch, and we just had a huge win. A division opponent at home this week, they're going to be undermanned. We take care of business here, and we're going to be playing with all the confidence in the world. But speaking of that game, let's get our predictions in before we head out for the night. And
absolutely. Before we do that, though, Vin, we're going to shout out our lovely sponsors over at DraftKings. We don't want to leave them out. We have all the respect in the world for them as well. So can you believe we're this deep in the NFL season? I know I surely can't. We got to make every second count. With DraftKings Sportsbook, you can make the most out of every game day. Bet on your favorite teams for a shot at winning big bucks. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for every $5 spent on any matchup. Get in on the action with DraftKings.
You want to read the whole thing?
No,
I
don't.
You want to be Pacino and De Niro. You can only be one of them, Sal.
It's a habit. I see words, I read them.
Yeah. Get in on the action with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Download the app now and use the code SICKSPORTS. New customers can score $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on any NFL game. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with the code SICKSPORTS. The crown is yours. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Bet with your head. Don't bet over it. Let's get into those predictions. We'll give Jared his prediction first. They're 27-16 Titans. Jared has over the Texans, so an 11-point victory at home. I would love to see a score, in the upper 20s, low 30s. That would be great to see if this offense can keep rolling. But Jared has us winning 27-16. What do you have it at, Sal?
31-10 Titans.
Wow, I like that.
Stroud's definitely not playing, or we don't know yet?
He's still in concussion protocol, and tomorrow is Friday, so there's not much time to get out of it because there are multiple steps to it. We don't know where he is in the protocol, but usually if you're not cleared by Friday, you're not playing. So looks like they're undermanned. You think we're going to win by 21. I'm not quite that confident. I'm going to go 24-13 like Jarrett, an 11-point victory. I see us, scoring over 20 points again, and I see us being able to stop them, especially if CJ Stroud is not going to be able to play. So we will see. I don't care how we win as long as we win. We want to keep this train rolling at this point because you never know what can happen. I also have the Titans team total over 7.5. I will owe my guys some money if we don't win 8 games. So got to win 3 out of the last 4, but they are at home. And, the schedule seems to be a bit in our favor at this point. So
at this point.
Yeah, you never know. Listen, the most Titan things ever would be to get burnt by Davis Mills and Robert Woods.
Ain't going to happen. Not in those uniforms. In those uniforms.
I hope not, Sal, but, fool me once.
You know
what I mean?
He's fooled us many times.
Yeah, many, many times.
Here's the outlier. Will Donovan Levis. That is the outlier. Honestly, guys, and I mean this with all sincerity, I think this Dolphin game finally was just too much for the staff to bear going into this off week or going into this this week of practice. They're like, now they're at the point where like we got to just let this kid be the quarterback he was born to be. No more. I know we love to run the ball and be this, but you know what? We got the guy now, so we just got to pivot here, and we got to let him be a quarterback. And he did something that no quarterback I've ever seen has done in a tight uniform Monday night on the biggest stage. So that's why I think we're no longer going to do the things that we did with all the other quarterbacks that we failed, which is hold them back, like we did with Mariota, even Malik to an extent, even though he's not even close to Levis, but even him to an extent. Didn't let him be what he was at Liberty. We tried to turn him into a guy who's going to hand the ball off 2 times and then try to make a 3rd down throw. That's just not what a good quarterback's going to should do. So I think we're going to let him be the quarterback of the Titans for today, yesterday, and tomorrow. And he's going to put on a show. I think him and Nuke are going to put on another show, and I think it's going to be fun. I think this last 4 games are going to really actually be fun for us. And if nothing else, it's going to make us through the roof for excitement going into 2024. So, that's all she wrote for me. Anything else you want to add, Vin, before we close on out?
That is it, my man. We'll be back Sunday afternoon post-game, hopefully with a smile on our face. But other than that, stay safe. Sammy, send me out.
Oh, okay. Tighten up.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Talking Titans on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.